Hey guys, it's Henry here, back with you guys with the step 4 of the private clarity call script, pain and clarity. So when it comes to pain and clarity, again, I just want to outline some misconceptions some closers have, all right? So personally, I don't like to refer it as digging into pain, right? A lot of people are like, oh, digging into pain, finding their pain, digging into goals, right? And, that just gives a negative connotation to all this, right? But, the fact is, it's necessary to get information on the situation. And that's what really pain is, just information on the situation and why they need to get out of it, right? So instead of digging into pain, quote unquote, I like to say it as getting clarity because that's what you're really doing on the call, right? You're just getting clarity about their situation and why they feel like they need some change in their life. Because like I mentioned in the goals video, sometimes there is no deep pain. Sometimes there is no thing that makes them cry, right? Sometimes the prospect isn't in 10K of debt, right? Making 2K a month. Sometimes they're, making a good income. They just want to do something different. And those are most of the time, those are the people I actually close, right? Because they just want to do something different, right? They have the money, right? That kind of thing. So, but again, that's just trying to say that not everyone has that quote unquote deep pain. Not everyone has, not every single one of your prospects are making under 3K a month, right? Got it. So another thing I'd like to mention as well, right? Just take a look at my notes. So the first question I like to ask when it comes to pain, right, is just, okay, so Mr. Prospect, right, like what do you feel has kept you from reaching this goal up to this point? And I like using the word feel, right? Because sometimes if you ask them what has kept you, like, oh, how am I supposed to know, right? Well, you're like, what do you feel has kept you from reaching this goal? They're like, oh, what do I feel? Oh, I can give a guess, right? And that's what you want them to do. You just want them to have some sort of answer. Doesn't matter if it's right or not, just some sort of idea they have, right? And if they say, I don't know, right? I would ask this for sure. What would you change right now? But I would frame it in a way where it uses more NLP, right? So I would do something along the lines of, okay, so Mr. Prospect, right? Like if there was one thing you could change about your current situation, what would that be? So I actually have it written over here, so I'll just let you guys see my personal script. What I would just say is, if there was something you could change, what would that be? Right? That's pretty much the same thing, but it reframes it in a way where it allows them a bit easier to understand. You pretty much get the same answer, right? And you want them, again, tell me more about that. You want to do this for every single thing they say. Tell me more about that. Ask them why. Why is that? Why do you think that has been holding you back? But again, with the right tonality, of course. What do you mean by, let's say, a vehicle. Let's say their problem, right, was a vehicle to get them to a 10K six-figure income, right? And that's what they tell you. Okay, so, tell me more about that, Mr. Prospect. Like, what do you mean by, that vehicle to help you get there? Just something like that. It might be obvious, right? But you still want to ask them, tell me more about that, right? And you can ask them, okay, so, why don't you feel that what you're doing right now is enough to get you there, right? Like, why do you feel you need this vehicle, right? If you already have, a pretty stable job and it's making you, not bad money. Just questions like that based on their situation, of course. So after you get an understanding of their situation, which is through here, you want to reflect and clarify. You just say, okay, so, I hear you saying that, is that right? Right. After you reflect and clarify, you always want to ask them, is that right? Just to confirm. And this part is just trying to get them to talk a little bit more about the issue. Personally, you already got them to talk here, so I just ignore this section personally, but you don't have to do what I say, right? And here, this is where the tonality part really, really matters, right? So here you want to go, okay, so it sounds like to me, right, that this is the issue. Is that right? But you want to make it sound like you actually really, really care, which you do, right? You have to really care about their prospect in order to be a closer. Like if you don't care about helping people, like this is not the thing for you, right? So you have to really make the prospect understand you're saying this because you care about them, not because, you're arrogant, not because you're trying to look down on them, right? So you want to go like, okay, so it just sounds like to me, right, that, this issue has been going on and you really want to get to these goals, but it's just, let's say procrastination that has really been holding you back. Is that about right? Something like that. Okay, so tell me, Bob, right? Tell me, Mr. Prospect, like, how much longer do you want to be in this situation? That kind of thing. And I just remembered actually this section, after they explain a bit more about the issue, right? So most of the time when you reflect and clarify, they might just say, yeah, that's right. Or sometimes they might actually tell you a bit more. So if they do tell you a bit more, you want to go deep, right? Anything they tell you, it's just go with the flow, right? Anything they tell you, you go into it. Okay, tell me more about that, right? And it's just, just having a conversation with them, right? You genuinely are interested in wanting to know more. That's why you're asking these questions, and that's why you're going deeper and deeper. All right. So going back down over here, this is just kind of to get their mindset straight. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Prospect, that if you keep doing what you've been doing for the past X years, which I like to use, let's say they've been, working the same job for 5 years. Okay. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Prospect, that if you keep doing what you've been doing for the past 5 years, you'll keep getting what you're getting? Or something like that. And again, tonality matters, right? And then this part you want to ask, okay, so, what are you going to do if nothing changes, right? If you continue to stay in the situation, right? Sometimes you might find a character trait, and what the character trait really is if they're procrastinating, right? If they're afraid of taking a step because they're afraid of the unknown, maybe they're afraid of success, maybe they can be afraid of many things, right? So that's what you want to mention here. But if you can't find that, you just want to mention what they'll lose if they stay in the situation. Because people pay more attention and they spend more energy trying to make sure they don't lose anything instead of gaining, right? People want to gain stuff, but they're way more interested in avoiding loss. So you always want to frame, the pain and clarity section as if you continue to lose. What are you going to do if nothing changes? If you continue to lose this because you are in this situation, right? And whatever they lose by staying here, you figure out over here, right? That's why you tell me more about that. And that's why you ask them, well, what do you mean by this section? All right. So again, you want to mention, okay, so what are you going to do if nothing changes? And if you continue to stay in the situation and lose this, you never want to say, not go to the future and gain, because that's appealing, but less appealing than if you continue to stay in the situation and lose this because you are afraid to jump out, take that step, something like that. And another thing you want to do as well is you want to ask, this section is something I don't really use this part. Like, it's just kind of like arguing. I don't like using this part. So I don't say anything along these lines or this, right? So what I actually do in this section, so I say something along the lines of over here. So this part, we said that already. So I would actually talk something like this over here. I just want to say here that you have to be fully committed, right? Because, we have students who are just quote unquote interested, right? They're just going to follow it until times get rough, and then, they'll fade, they'll give up. But someone who's really committed to it, sometimes who's willing to push through, right? They'll actually continue to that goal no matter what obstacles get in the way. And you want to say this part with full certainty, right? Are you ready to make this happen? And if they go like, yeah, I guess so, you want to go check them. Just go like, you sure? Just say something like that. Are you sure? It doesn't sound like you're sure, right? So this section, you have to make sure they're 100% sure, 100% committed, right? If they're not, either means, number one, you haven't dug into their situation deep enough, or you haven't sold them on their goals deep enough. Again, you have to quote unquote dig into their goals as hard as you dig into their pain, because sometimes there is no pain, right? So if they are a bit wary, it means you didn't either sell them on their pain, getting out of that situation, or selling them on their goals, getting into that situation they want to be in, right? This section. All right. So yeah, that's all there is to pain and clarity. Just a couple of things to clarify. Number one, you don't always have to make your prospects cry, quote unquote. And second thing, want to make sure that you sell them on their pain as much as you sell them on their goals, and vice versa. Both are key. All right. Third, right tonality, extremely important, especially when you're getting them to tell more about their situation. Right? So you want to have the right tonality, just having empathy, compassion, right? And the last thing I would say is gut check, especially at this section, right? You got to make this happen. If they're wary, if they're not certain, if they're like 8 out of 10, if they're not like, yes, let's do it. If they're not like that, no, we can't do it. Like, there's something to fix. All right.